and we'll get started. Welcome to another Zoom call. It is the 27th of July, and we have a number of questions to go over. So here's your purpose right here. Here's your life purpose out of 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. Pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. So this is God's will for you, that we give thanks in everything, that we're praying constantly, which means we're constantly communicating with God, not thinking about ourselves, but thinking about what God's will is for us and what we can do to serve him. That's what our purpose is. Reminder to everybody, if you have questions between the Zoom calls, to go to our blog posts and search for them. You can just search any page of our website. You do not have to be on the blog. Search for it and you'll come up with possible answers. Maybe I wrote an article about it or did a video on it. So that will save you some time. And then everybody should be on our membership site by now. That's how you'll see all the recorded Zoom calls for the last 6+ years. And no, you'll see some information of new announcements. So the latest announcement is the addition of another Zoom call Mondays at noon with Ann. And yes, you can certainly jump on both of them. Let's get to the questions. We have a cabin. We're making some trails in the woods. That's my favorite thing to do. We have tons of trails at our 20 acres and then our other 10 acres of where our clinic is. So the grandkids can run around in the woods. But my wife just got some poison ivy really bad. Yes, poison ivy is nasty stuff. I want to spray Roundup on it, but she won't let me. You have a very wise wife. She says I have no business using Roundup. Yes, I would agree with her. Would it be a problem if I did? Yes, it would be a problem if it did. Of course, Roundup will work to kill poison ivy. At least I believe it does. And yeah, okay, if you use a little Roundup, is that going to be so bad? The problem is this stuff has a half-life of probably 500 years. So it's going to be around in your environment. And it is really, really toxic. It is a major cause of cancer. So, and it can be a major cause of cancer for generations beyond. Even if you get a mask, you wear gloves, you dress in long clothing, you're still putting it in your environment and it's going to stay there in the soil. Let's say you have no poison ivy, but the kids are playing or grandkids are playing, they're going to get this stuff on them and in their body. And it's just nasty stuff. So philosophically, I'm against it for that reason, just how toxic it is and what you're doing to future generations. It's just horrible. So find a different way to get rid of it. You can just cut it down with your lawnmower and it tends to not grow back if you keep that area cut. But of course, if you have a patch size of, an acre, it makes it a little bit more difficult to be able to do that. Just have to stay out of that area. The other thing you can do is rent goats. So there's services around my area for sure, maybe around your area. I don't know where this person lives. I don't even know who this person is asking this question, but that you can rent goats. There's goat rental services now that they will come and eat this stuff up. So that's another thing that you can do from a natural perspective. Goats tend to eat the ivy, so it's kind of crazy, but they'll get rid of it for you. I had radiation and I'm getting the shot to wipe out the testosterone. So the shot that this person is talking about is a Lupron-like shot, which is androgen deprivation therapy. So Lupron and its similar type medications knock out testosterone, will literally knock testosterone down to zero. And with prostate cancer, this person is saying, since my cancer feeds on it, there's really no evidence that cancer feeds on testosterone in any way. It certainly doesn't feed on it. But you can't argue that by using androgen deprivation therapy, you will drop your PSA down to zero, like instantly. Does that actually slow the rate of cancer? That's the arguable thing. Certainly, there's tons of evidence that though it does drop your PSA down to 0, that within a couple of years, it tends not to work anymore. So I actually wrote an article about this. That's why I put this thing right here, because the rest of this question, I have been on the shot for 9 months, and it's about time to get another one. I do not want to keep taking the shot. It really messes me up. They want me to take it, want me on it for 2 years. Do you have any input? So there's an article that I wrote on our blog post. You remember, you search this area right here. You can search just testosterone and you'll come up with it. But it's the title of the article is Men's Hormone Health and Regulation. This is actually a part of my book. It's in the Stop Fighting Cancer book as well. It talks about the biggest part of that, what the testosterone deprivation does, androgen deprivation does, is it helps eliminate IL-6. So interleukin-6 is a major driver of prostate cancer. So anything you can do to decrease interleukin-6. So that's where curcumin comes in. That's where green tea extract, the EGCG from green tea extract comes in, and is really, really helpful. If you're going to be on androgen deprivation therapy, I always suggest that people take andrographis as well. Andrographis is an herb typically used for viral infections, but andrographis has been shown to upregulate the Lupron and its effect. Remember, I said it tends to only work for a couple of years. Well, it can double the life of the benefit of the Lupron if you're going to be on that. So read that article. I go into detail quoting some research that's out there. I was diagnosed with multifocal triple negative breast cancer in February after 10 infusions of my first schedule of chemo. All tumors in breast and lymph are gone except one small tumor. Most recent biopsy confirms HER2 positive breast cancer disease. Most likely has been 2 kinds of cancer all along. When considering ongoing treatment of, I'm going to stop there real quick. This is why when we do the testing, sometimes we have patients that come to us with triple negative breast cancer, and it comes up in the testing as still has a hormonal component. We put the person on DIM, and often they question us like, I don't need to be on that because I have triple negative breast cancer. Well, just because the biopsy showed triple negative breast cancer does not mean that it's truly triple negative. So understand what we're talking about. So triple negative breast cancer means the sample of biopsy that they took did not seem to react to estrogen, progesterone, or HER2 receptors. So the estrogen receptors, progesterone receptors, and the HER2 receptors did not seem to be driving the cancer. But remember, that was just out of that needle biopsy of that section of the tumor. Does it mean that the whole tumor was truly triple negative? That's why I don't necessarily agree with just treating totally based off the biopsy. So let's finish the question. When considering ongoing treatment of my circulating tumor cells, should I consider them now triple negative breast cancer or HER2 positive breast cancer? Okay, so your circulating tumor cells really aren't going to be have anything to do with receptor positive or negative, because they are still just cancer stem cells, and they may end up, if they start growing, they could be ER positive, PR positive, or HER2 positive or negative on any of those things. So I don't think you'd consider the circulating tumor cells as triple negative, ER positive, PR positive, or HER2 positive or negative, because they're just still circulating tumor cells. With Be Specific Naturally, it contains folate. Yes. Be Specific Naturally didn't used to have folate in it. Now they've added folate to it just a few months ago. I read multiple places that I'm supposed to not take folate supplements with hormone receptor positive cancer. Is this different form, or is this something? So The folate that is in Be Specific Naturally, I still recommend Be Specific Naturally over any B supplement that's out there because it is a food-based supplement. It's a food-based supplement. So food-based nutritional supplements are different than synthetically put together or synthetically derived nutrition that is out there, though some of that can be really good. But food-based vitamin B is really important, I think, from a supplement approach. Now, folate is in there, that's naturally occurring. Understand there's a difference between folate and folic acid. Folic acid is the synthetic folate. So if your B supplement, if you're taking a vitamin B supplement and it says folic acid, you have to look down at the bottom and see what type that they're talking about. Because some B supplements may say folic acid, and then it'll say folic, at the bottom it'll say folic acid as methyl tetrahydrofolate. Okay, well then it's not folic acid. They just list it as folic acid because most people know what folic acid is. Now, lately, the new labels are coming out that more and more people are knowledgeable about the difference between folic acid, which is synthetic folate, naturally occurring folate, and laboratory 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. So if you're taking B supplements and you don't have cancer, you should take the folate, naturally occurring folate in a food-based supplement, or 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Nobody should ever take folic acid. So when it says at the bottom folic acid, it says as folic acid. It's a synthetic folic acid. It's actually dangerous. And you can see some of my videos on genetic MTHFR defects to understand this a little bit better. But the folate that's in Be Specific Naturally is a naturally occurring folate in that supplement, and you can take that regardless of what type of cancer you have. That is a safe folate. You're not getting any more folate than if you ate a salad. So you're fine with that. You don't want to take 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate or too much of that in supplements when you have cancer. It's not just hormone-positive breast cancer, it's any cancer. So that's why we don't use a lot of methyl groups, methyl tetrahydrofolate or methylcobalamin, which is a form of B12. We don't recommend those for cancer patients because too many methyl groups can be an issue. But the folate that's in Be Specific Naturally, or this is a product from PHP, Standard Process is another whole food supplement company. They have a B product that just has folate naturally occurring. Those are safe to take. Is there any way to test our grounding pads? Seems like they're pretty key to the ProWave therapy. We could use a blue light on the Ion ProWave. We can see the blue light on the Ion ProWave, but how would we ever know if a wire came loose or something in the connection for the grounding pad, and then the Ion ProWave isn't doing anything? So first of all, if your Ion, even if you don't use the grounding pad on the Ion ProWave, it's still doing a lot. So the grounding pad isn't a key integral part that if you don't use it, it's not working. It's still working. It just will work better if you're using the grounding pad. Now, the grounding pad in the Ion ProWave grounds back to the ground input on the TrueRife machine itself. And that's connected to the ground wire of your outlet that's going into your house. So this is actually a ground testing device right here that you can order for about $5 on Amazon. So these two top things on any plug-in are the positive and negative. And then that roundish one on the bottom, In between those two is the ground. The ground again connects back to a wire that's usually wrapped in green plastic in the triple wire component of the triple wire that goes back through your house wiring system back to your breaker panel, and then it's connected to a central copper pad. All the grounds are connected to that, and then they are going out through a very thick copper cable out to the outside, and you should have a very thick copper rod, 6-foot rod that's pounded down into your ground. That's where the word ground comes in. So any shortage or anything is grounded to the ground. So the ground on your grounding pad of your TruRife is connected back ultimately to that circular round ground on your cable, on your plug-in. So it is dependent on your house being grounded. So if you live in an old house like I grew up in, where none of the outlets were grounded because we had wiring from 1920, then our machines aren't grounded, and you use those other little plug-in things that are probably illegal these days that allow you to plug a 3-prong out thing into a 2-prong outlet, which isn't all too safe because the device isn't grounded then. So you can actually get one of these little things and you can plug them into your outlet, and you can see it has a readout here. It's very fuzzy because I just took this off the internet, but it tells you if your outlet is grounded. Now, I've been in people's houses where I used this device, tested it, and they had their house all rewired, but the electrician was too lazy to actually connect the ground. So none of their outlets, even though they had 3 prongs, were really truly grounded. Well, that doesn't do any good. Completely worthless. So they had to get a different electrician out to make sure that the grounding was grounded. Sometimes people hit their lawnmower on that little grounding thing outside where the grounding rod is going into the ground, and they disconnect the copper wire coming from their circuit breaker panel, and now nothing is grounded either. So things like that you want to look at. So some simple electrician hacks that you could YouTube or Google to fix the problem. Is it normal to feel pinging and tingling throughout the body from the various treatments, the Rife machine, the PEMF, the ion foot bath, the Qi machine, and the infrared hothouse? And is it a sign of healing or a sign of too much protocol? Patient has bladder cancer, LBD, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So if you get a feeling of pinging or tingling when you're using these devices, especially if it's pinging at the site of the cancer, that is always a good thing. If you're getting pinging or tingling with the PEMF use, that's too intense, because PEMF is electrical frequency, then I would say you need to turn the PEMF down or move it a little farther away from the body. That can become uncomfortable. If any of this pinging that you're doing is uncomfortable or causing a lot of pain that is too much to bear, then you want to move the Rife bulb a little bit farther away, move the PEMF farther away, like I said, or turn it down. Ion foot bath, you can't do anything differently with that. And the Qi machine, you can't really do much differently with that. So, but it is always a good sign. That means those frequencies are hitting that cancer. So I would not stop it. If it's uncomfortable though, or causing pain, just move the things farther away so it's tolerable. For the last 10 to 15 years, I have maintained a strict ketogenic diet, being highly reactive to carbs and sugars, and to manage inflammation. I have had not much fruit or vegetables in my diet. I'm sorry. I have had not much fruit and vegetables in my diet other than a greens drink, and seemed fine maintaining this way. Periodically, I have had low carb berries when feel it, and also have had extreme compelling to odd things, such as raw broccoli during last pregnancy, which I have honored and ate, and now know it was probably a need for extra choline. I seem to maintain fine this way, and the more strict keto I am, the more I fast, the more I feel my best and thrive. Lately, I have had this same intense compelling towards grapes. Was this grapes or wine? Never mind. This is not a typical thing for me, as the high sugar content in grapes, but I cannot seem to get enough lately. Is there something in the grapes that could be helpful to me at this point? I am honoring my body, but I do not want to slip into a sugar trap in which my body thinks it needs something when it is just craving for sugars that are not good for me. I am trying to look at all my genetics and see where grapes may be helpful, or my nutrition. What may have changed that is causing this extreme want of grapes? Any advice is appreciated. So sometimes you'll hear different alternative practitioners say, if you're craving something, that can mean that there's something in there that your body needs. And I too do believe that is true, though it doesn't mean that that's what we're supposed to eat. So people that crave eating dirt, where you see little kids eat dirt, that's called pica. That doesn't mean they should eat dirt. It's typically a deficiency in iron. So it can be a deficiency in other minerals too. So a craving towards something can be because we have a deficiency in something or a need for something. You'd have to Google the chemical components of grapes and what are the main nutritional components of grapes. But I do know there's flavonoids in grapes, but there certainly is sugar in grapes too. There's flavonoids and a lot of other things. How come we're not craving those? So that's one philosophy, which I do think does hold true in many instances. But also, our body can crave things for wrong reasons. So if a person, let's say, has full-blown stage 4 cancer and it's gobbling up sugar, you can crave sugar and be wanting to eat more sugar, and you're just feeding the cancer. That would be a bad thing. But I also think there's the inert craving. We can be craving something and wanting something that maybe isn't something we necessarily need, nor is something that our body is wanting. There may not be an explainable answer to that. So I don't know if there's any specific nutrient in grapes. I do know that there's things in the food that we don't know about yet, that you won't find on any Google search. So that is true. Maybe it's the fiber in the grape skin. Maybe it's the flavonoids in the grapes. Maybe it's the I don't know. Maybe you do need more sugar. Maybe it'd be good just to test your glucose. You don't want to have glucose that's too low. So there's, I don't know all the minerals that are specifically in grapes. You'd have to look that up. But good question. Sometimes I do believe our body craves things that we need. Sometimes I do believe our body is craving things for the wrong reason too. So some people will say, how can you have to believe that. I mean, people crave alcohol. It doesn't mean alcohol is good for us, right? So there's good and bad for that. So try to use wisdom and pray about that. I do think there's a lot of wisdom and moderation in all things too. So moderation and allowing yourself to have some grapes and some joy in that as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. Question on the chat. Using a rebounder was included in my binder instructions. I am in the habit of using it, but I'm wondering what I should be doing on it and for how long? What is the goal of the rebounder use? I just get bouncing and sweating or heart rate increase. What is it? I have breast cancer. Thank you. So the purpose of the rebounder is really to get the lymph system moving. That's the purpose of it. Remember, your lymph system is an open-ended capillary system, and your lymph system does not, things don't move through your lymph because your heart is beating. Things move through your lymph because your muscles are contracting. So there's different, throughout that lymph vessel, there's one-way valves. So as your muscles contract and squish fluid through that lymph vessel, goes through that valve, and then it can't go back. So the more you can exercise, move your body, and get motion in your body, the key is motion, then you're going to help with lymph detoxification. So how you detoxify your tissues is those toxins moving through your lymph system back into your bloodstream, to your liver, through the phase 1 and phase 2, phase 3 pathways, then to the duodenum and the colon and the toilet. So the more you can help with that lymph motion, the better off you're going to be. Are blueberries okay, or is there too much sugar in them? I eat them daily. So I am very much in favor of eating berries. So berries are good for you. Adding the different colors of different fruit is the best. So out of the fruits that you can eat that have the lowest glycemic index, the stone fruits are the lowest. Stone fruit is one that has a big pit in it. So plums and peaches, they're the lowest glycemic index, but they're not necessarily the best for us. So the citrus fruits have the highest glycemic index and have the least really nutritional value. The best nutritional value and the medium glycemic index is the berry. So the berries have more flavonoids, have more cancer-killing properties than any of the fruits. So that's why I typically tell people if they're making a shake to use frozen berries to taste, because they have some really good cancer-killing properties. So eating blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, those are your best berries to eat. You can have some strawberries too, but the blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries are your best. Is pro-hydroxycobalamin different than methylcobalamin? Yes, so cobalamin, think of that as that's the B12 component. And then it has to be bound to something. So cobalamin is either bound to a methyl group, therefore it's methylcobalamin. And that's what we don't want to take as a cancer patient, because we don't want too many methyl groups. Well, methyl groups are good for me. Well, yes, they are. And a lot of people are deficient in methyl groups, especially if you have a MTHFR defect. However, too many methyl groups can also turn off or silence genes, and we don't want tumor suppressor genes silenced. And almost all of our cancer patients are getting enough, plenty enough naturally occurring methyl groups, because you're eating green leafy vegetables and salads, and you're eating more vegetables than the average non-cancer patient. So having too little methyl groups is not an issue for our cancer patients. So we don't want methylcobalamin. So what's our other options with cobalamin? Well, the next option is cyanocobalamin, which is a synthetic cobalamin, which nobody should take. So cross that one off. Then you have two good options. One is adenosylcobalamin, which is these are equally good, or hydroxycobalamin. So either one of those you could use, hydroxycobalamin or adenosylcobalamin. They're both equally as good. Neither one is better than the other. They will enter into the methionine pathway and serve as your best use of B12. I had a biopsy last week. I am outside of the restrictions window and have a closed wound that is bruised but healing. Am I able to resume the PEMF and hyperthermia over that site yet? so long as the wound is closed and healing? I would say yes. I would just watch it, make sure when you add heat to it that the wound doesn't open up is all, and make sure it doesn't look like it's swollen underneath there or getting any worse swelling when you're doing the hyperthermia. I don't think the PMF would cause any issues, but the hyperthermia would be the one that I would just keep an eye on. Any other questions? Can enemas help detoxify equivalently to exercise if I'm struggling with exercise due to the salve, pain, and anemic fatigue, doing enemas 2 times per week? So it's hard to say an equation here, because if a person is exercising, are you detoxifying? So what does exercise do to detoxification? So exercise, I said, helps move lymph because you're contracting muscles. So that's how it's helping. But if you're exercising to a sweat, then you're helping detoxify through the skin. So 2 ways that exercise, I guess, could help with detoxification. Enemas with detoxification. So enemas are stimulating your parasympathetics, which what do your parasympathetics do when it's stimulated? It stimulates your immune system. Hey, that's good. Stimulates your detoxification pathways. Hey, that's great too. Doing them 2 times a week, that's great. If you're having an issue with detoxifying, you want to probably move to doing them more often than that. Saunas with help with detoxification, same way we're talking about with exercise, not the muscle contraction, but the sweating. So it's hard to equate those, what's better, what's worse, doing as much as you can. Certainly if you have fatigue, then don't push it and cause more fatigue. Somebody unmuted themselves. Do they have a question? Okay, I'm going to mute you again. Question: my breast is really swollen and the center of my chest is a bit sore. I have breast cancer. If for those of you that have a cancer that's near the surface, like breast cancer, that may be visible, it may be good for you to send us a picture. So when you see something really change, like, wow, it looks super red, or this looks really weird, it looks different, and you just take a picture of it, cover up your nipple if you have to, but get a couple decent pictures and email them to us. Email them to info@Connors Clinic, and it'll only come to me so I can get it in your file. So if there's an issue that I want to address, we can get back to you. Please put your name on the email, because sometimes that's not decipherable, so we know who it's coming from. So this person asked this question, maybe that would be a good idea to do. I've had toenail and fingernail fungus, suggestive of systemic fungus for sure. So far, after 4 months of protocol, I have seen little if no improvement. Protocol seems to work well, though. Are you talking about the fungus protocol on the Rife? Not sure what protocol you're talking about. There is a There's a fungus stuff. Let me find it really quick, because I need to get this up on the member site that we have used in the past. Let's see if I can find it. Company. The Rife protocol you suggested. Okay. This is it. I think this one is it right here. All right. I think this is, I'll put this up on the find it. Hold on, stay with me. Here it is right here. So this herbal nail fungus soak, I think that's the one that I used to recommend all the time to people, and I had really good results with it. Pretty sure that's it. You can get it on Amazon. And you soak your hands or your feet in it. That will help too. You can see the different herbs that are in this picture. If I make it a little bit bigger, I would also think about getting essential oils of these things and try those on it as well. The medication for fungi in your body is just horrible for your liver. It is so toxic. So we never recommend that. I would try these things first. Yeah, if you want to just totally just work on that fungus at that spot, that's what we would want to do, something like that. Any other questions? Is it okay to use the fungus protocol to help with lifelong chronic fungal foot problems while also on the cancer protocol? Don't want to overwhelm the liver. Now, especially if you're using like a soak like this, you're not absorbing really those things. You're affecting it just on the surface. If you're using an essential oil, obviously you are absorbing some of that. But yeah, you can certainly try it at this stage. If you're in dire issues, then I would say probably not, but certainly at this stage you can try those things. But having swelling of the ankles primarily and other body parts the past month, probably due to the toxic dump from the salve. Enemas and IV vitamin C more frequent to get the swelling down. So if you're having swelling of your ankles and stuff, that is stasis of fluid. So swelling of your ankles, you want to move fluid. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're having liver problems. It means that you're having stasis of fluid in your feet. That means your lymph, that lymph is not flowing. So it's think about doing exercises. Okay, I don't feel good, I'm tired. You can sit and write the alphabet with your toe. Motion is key. So you're contracting your lower leg and leg muscles. You can write the alphabet with your toe by moving your ankle. You can write the alphabet larger by moving your lower leg. So you're getting contraction of those muscles will help move lymph. Obviously, elevating your legs will help so that you have gravity help move that lymph. That will help too. Doing coffee enemas will help because it stimulates the liver, but because it stimulates the parasympathetics, which the lymph system is under that control too. So vitamin C IV, I'd say maybe not so much. You might want to back off on the vitamin C IV because too much vitamin C can actually cause increased swelling in some people. So I would say enemas. You were talking to Max Gerson, he would say you need to be doing several coffee enemas a day. So not a week, but a day. That's the answer he would give you. Is unfortified nutritional yeast okay? Yes, that should be okay. So fortified things are fortified typically with synthetic crappy supplements that could be not good for you. So yes, you could use that. I am very stiff in the mornings and after squatting, etc., after hysterectomy. Is there anything I can take for pain and stiffness? I have hormone receptor positive breast cancer. So, yep. So your main pain protocol, um, try to stay away from medications, would be your anti-inflammatories. So your curcumin, your boswellia, your white willow bark, all these are the flavonoid group. The green tea extract, the stingy nettle, all of that group. You can find those things in a product called Clear Inflam. Clear Inflam is our brand of inflammatone. That's a good product to take. The RAI product stands for anti-inflammatory or autoimmune. It's just two letters, A and I. That's a product I formulated. It's just got the flavonoids in it for that reason, for decreasing inflammation. The other thing that can help with that is CBD. So CBD would be helpful for that, and THC is helpful for that too if it's legal in your state. Certainly very helpful for pain. Um, so those would be the things that I would go to first. And you do have to take those on a fairly regular basis. So like taking, so if I have a lot of pain, I might take AI or Clear Inflam, and I'll take maybe 3 of them. And then an hour later, I'll take another 3. Then a couple hours later, I'll take another 3. I might take, up to 20 a day just to try to block that pain cycle and to knock that out of me. And then I'll go down to maybe 4 or 5 or 6 a day. So you have to kind of get your body kind of loaded with those flavonoids. And remember, all those nutrients, especially the flavonoids, have a pretty short half-life. I think resveratrol is another one of those flavonoids. And I think that has the shortest half-life of anything. So that means it's gone out of your body pretty quick. So you need to take it over time. Is substituting leafy greens with greens powder okay to take on a daily basis if I can't find good fresh greens at the store? Yes, I would say for sure. So the greens powders that are out there, like Greens First, have way more nutrients in it than fresh greens. So because it's a lot more than fresh greens. So yes, so you can use the greens. I'm big into using the greens powders. They can be a really good whole food, whole nutrient, quote unquote, multiple vitamin for us that can really feed our bodies, especially in times that you can't get greens, like in the winter months and stuff where if you live in an area where it's hard to get some fresh greens. All right, everybody, we will sign off for tonight. I thank you for being on with us. Remember, we had a lot of people send in their questions to Ed or Ashley. Try to get on the member site and use the spot on the member site where you ask the questions there. That would be better. Then I get them and Ed gets them directly and they don't get lost in the email. So try to use that when you can. All right. Well, everybody have a good night and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.